What's the creepiest or most unexplained thing you've seen in broad daylight? Story number 1. I was walking along the Greenway in Boston when I saw a man some distance away, walking in the opposite direction with a completely floppy right arm. Like everything below the elbow was just boneless, and his forearm was flapping around all loose. He was wearing a short sleeve shirt, so I don't think it could have been a prosthetic or some kind gag. No one else around him was reacting to it. Story number 2. Weird intersection near my house that about 3 months ago started to be torn down for being too dangerous, replaced by a roundabout. Funny thing is, it was a normal intersection, 4 directions, 2 lanes in 2 lanes out with dedicated left turn lanes. Except just about every week someone crashed there. Every month we hear of a near fatality or worse. Police couldn't figure it out, so they started to petition for them to change it. They changed the light pattern and reduced speeds, which brought total crashes down, but here's the f***ed thing, serious injuries tripled. It got so bad they posted cops permanently to monitor the intersection, and what they noticed was, if they watched the intersection, nonstop, nothing would happen, but the instant you take your eyes off it, someone would speed through a red light or make a left turn on red. They then finally tried one last thing, removed 2 of the lights in favor of stop signs on one of the roads. First day there was a multi-car pile-up, second day there was a minivan rollover, and third day the mayor's daughter hit someone going 50. Day 4, intersection was closed for construction. Story number 3. When I was 12, I saw a black-eyed person. Not just dark eyes, but the kind of pitch black you see in horror movies where the entire eye is black. This was in 1995, before colored contacts were widely available, and I think they were like hundreds of dollars, so I've always found that explanation unlikely. So I'm at a huge water park in my city in the wave pool. My friend and I were on a double intertube, just splashing around when we ended up in the middle of the giant pool, bumping into other tubers. I look up, and a few feet away is this guy. He's about 25, and he's staring at me. Not just staring, but staring into my eyes, into my soul. It was a creepy stare, but not sexual or anything. It was just too intense. I couldn't look away for what felt like a long time. It felt like he knew what I was thinking. Definitely felt predatory in an animalistic way. I swear he had a small smirk on his face. After what was probably only a few seconds, but felt much longer, I looked away, and that was that. This is the interesting part, I think. Back then I never talked about it or looked it up. The internet was new, and I don't think I even had an email at that point. I don't think I told my friend or my parents. About 15 years later, I'm sitting at work, and I remember this incident, so I decided to look it up online. I check eye diseases, and the only one that it could have been said people generally couldn't be in the sun as it is painful. I saw the black-eyed guy on a sunny day at a water park, so that was unlikely. I then found the site about black-eyed kids, but that sounded too made up. I did find a handful of similar stories, though. I guess I'll never know for sure, but it sticks out as one of the creepiest things I've experienced. Story number 4. When I was a little girl, I was playing in my room one morning with my sister. I looked out my window and saw a man staring in at us. I told my sister to leave my room and ran to get my father. He didn't believe me and thought I was crazy. Needless to say, I had an awful hard time sleeping that night. Throughout my childhood, I'd hear what sounded like footsteps outside at night, or my parents' car doors opening long after they had went to sleep. Several years later, I looked at our house on Google Maps. I always assumed we lived by ourselves in the woods, far from anyone else. It turns out there was a small house that looked like it was being lived in only a few hundred yards in the woods from us. My family was less skeptical of my crazy stories after I showed them that. Story number 5. When I was 15, my family went on a cross-country trip, and one night we camped in the Grand Canyon. We went to a ranger lecture around 6 p.m. This is summer, so it was still pretty light when we were walking back. We went off the trail as a shortcut, and after walking a ways noticed a light up ahead. As we drew closer, there was a man sitting at a desk in the woods with a lantern. Just a full wood office-sized desk in the middle of the woods. I distinctly remember he had long sideburns and feeling like he was dressed like a man from the 1800s. My dad backed us down towards the trail, and we went on our way. The man never made a peep or looked up or acknowledged us. There were 2 adults and 3 teenagers, and we all remember the event really clearly. I don't believe in ghosts or spirits, but have no explanation for what I saw. As I got older, I figured I was misremembering, but everyone else in my family says they saw the same thing. Story number 6. I grew up in a pretty rural area of the United States on a decent-sized corn or soybeans farm that is about half and half farmland and forests. Naturally, me and my friends really enjoyed hoofing off in the woods as kids right up until we all left for college or other post-high school endeavors. The land is kind of rolling hills, but nothing crazy, and most of the land in every direction we had thoroughly explored. There really wasn't many nooks or crannies left, but hands down the creepiest thing that ever happened was when I was out in the woods alone on a bright, hot, sunny August day. Now the forest behind the farm had an almost bowl-shaped topography to it, in that the middle was a depression that for most of the year was a swamp, which was very difficult to get through. Like I said though, I'd seen just about everything for a good distance into those woods, including this cool old blue car from the 1940s. It was some kind of Studebaker that had been parked by the edge of the swamp at one point, long, long ago. However, the borders of the swamp had shifted many times, and on this particular day, the car was sitting in swamp water almost up to its windows. This wasn't anything new, but what was new was the man, woman, I don't know, sitting in the driver's seat. Whoever they were, they had long, dirty blonde hair with colorful but dirty streaks, almost like painted in. The best way I could describe it would be like if a girl painted her hair like an old-times clown and then fell in a mud puddle. Of course, this freaked me the f out as soon as I saw it, heart-pounding adrenaline pumping the whole 9 yards. I was facing the driver's side of the car, and while I was scared shitless initially, I scrambled to the left towards, and someone away from, the front of the car to put some distance between me and the car, but I didn't outright bolt. Again, it was a bright, sunny, beautiful summer day. Nothing to be too afraid of. I mean, I thought I was pretty confident in my youth that I could outrun whatever was in that car. I peeked around the corner of a tree, and with my new vantage point, it was immediately clear that it was just some old J.C. Penney mannequin with a wig on. Still creepy as fuck, as it hadn't been there ever before, but I had to admit whoever put it there had got me. Then it turned its head, and those pupil-less cold eyes looked right at me. Long story short, I Usain bolted all the way back to my house and locked everything down like Fort Knox. A few weeks later, after my friends telling me I was full of shit, we went back to the car, again in the daylight, and it was still there. Numbers breed courage, I guess, and we went right up to the car and looked inside. It was definitely just a dummy, and it had some kind of MacGyvered fishing line contraption that one could crudely control the dummy head with. The line ran out the other side of the car and around back of a tree a little ways into the swamp. Someone was there that day, and they knew I was looking at the car. Story number 7. In college, I lived on the 11th floor in an apartment with no balcony, and it was about 4:30 in the afternoon. I watched a man walk into my apartment about 10 seconds before I walked in, and habitually bolted the door behind me. It locked automatically on the outside. I was living with 3 roommates at the time, so I just figured they were having guests over, no biggie. I put my stuff on the couch and went towards the back bedroom to say hi to whoever came over. My roommates had no idea what I was talking about. It wasn't a big apartment, but I searched everywhere. My roommates stayed in the back bedroom, sufficiently freaked out. There was no one else in the apartment, and the door was still bolted from the inside. Story number 8. When I was 4 and my brother was 10, he stayed home from school, and my mom left him to babysit me. She left numbers on the fridge and stuff and off to work. I don't know how much longer after she left it happened, but we heard our dog barking viciously, which was completely out of character for her. At this point, my brother and I are in the kitchen, waiting for our biscuits in the oven, and the sound of Fluffy barking gets incredibly louder, which meant she was in the front lawn around the side of the kitchen entrance. The gate that led to the back was a little further down the side of the house, and whoever was outside was in the gap in between out of Fluffy's reach. My brother opens the kitchen curtains to see if he could get a view as to what's going on. Right as he opened the curtains, there was a man looking right down at us, almost like he expected my brother to open the curtains. The doorknob began to rattle, and my brother ran to the living room and grabbed the phone, taking me with him. As soon as he got on the phone, the rattle stopped. My mom came home, and at the same time, the police showed up for a statement. They never found the guy. My brother remembers it as vividly as I do, and it's the creepiest thing I've ever lived through. Story number 9. I grew up in the former Panama Canal Zone, and my elementary school was located in one of the oldest towns. It sat at the base of a huge hill that was partly used as a quarry during the construction days, and there was a ridge behind the school that once housed a cemetery that got moved, but apparently not all the bodies were accounted for. So there's plenty of hauntings around that area because of the cemetery and deaths on and around the quarry. So the school is 3 stories with a courtyard in the middle. One bright, sunny day when I was in 2nd grade, I got excused to use the restroom, and when I stepped outside, I glance across the courtyard and see a freaking horse just chilling in the hallway. It walked a few feet, then vanished. Needless to say, I was freaked out and later told everyone. Apparently others had seen the horse on different floors, and some even saw its probable owner with it. I never saw it again, but there are still stories of weird shit in that building, now government offices, to this day.